Hey, future bestsellers, Lisa Daly here. I'm the best-selling traditionally published author of 8 books. And today we're going to talk about the 5 biggest lies in publishing and whether or not they are keeping you from your dreams of being an author. I really believe that there are so many amazing writers and incredible stories that need to be told, and writers who really need to be heard, but they're being held back by either fear or insecurity or just inexperience or obstacles that are in their way. So if you do the work, I will do what I can to help you. Right? That's a good deal. So if you really want to write a book that you are super proud of and get it published, go ahead and click subscribe right now, and let's get started. On to the 5 terrible lies in publishing. Number 1, you can't get a publishing deal unless you know someone in publishing. This is not true, and in fact, it couldn't be less true. I actually did not know a single person in publishing and didn't even know another author when I wrote my first book, but I know a ton of other people who are authors and writers, and they also didn't know anybody in publishing before they got their first publishing deal. The truth is that yes, if you know someone in publishing, especially on the editorial side or the agenting side, certainly it can help to get your book in front of the right eyeballs, the right audience. That said, if it's a terrible book, they're going to reject it in the same way that they would have. And if it's a great book, they're going to, move it along the pipeline in the same way that they normally would. So will it get you to the top of the pile faster? Maybe, but you can get there anyway. You don't need to know anyone in publishing. And in fact, most people really don't. And one of the things that I think is really cool about the authortube community is that you have so many published authors, whether they're traditionally published or independently published, hybrid published, or some combination of that, all here in the same, sort of bowl of soup with aspiring authors and all sorts of other writers. If you don't know anybody in publishing, well, first of all, you know me, right? Because they're like that. We're just like that. So if you know me, you now know a person in publishing. You don't know anybody else. I don't want to hear that excuse come out of your mouth anymore. You now know someone in publishing. A sort of secondary lie to that is that you have to live in New York in order to get published, and that is not true either. I have never lived in New York, and I have been published many, many times by all sorts of publishers that aren't anywhere near any place I've ever been. And in today's world of Zoom and email, etc., there's really no need for you to be in New York. And really doesn't make much of a difference. Lie number 2, nobody wants to buy a book from an unknown author. This lie is not true. In fact, it's completely not true. It couldn't be less true. Everybody in publishing, from agents to editors to booksellers, they all want to find the next big thing. A debut author is like crack to publishing. Crack. I'm not kidding. Everybody wants to be part of discovering the next big thing. That's true for reviewers, it's true for publishers, it's true for editors, all the way down the line, booksellers, you name it. If you're a debut novelist, that is an advantage because you're not dragged down by lackluster sales on your last book. You're all full of promise and excitement, and anything can happen. And this is why publishing loves a debut novelist, or a debut author. So don't feel like unless you've already been published, you can't be published. It couldn't be less true. Big lie. That's probably the biggest lie. Lie number 3, my punctuation is terrible and therefore no agent or publisher will ever want to publish me. So I was really inspired to cover this by Doll Cecil Bruno, who is another authortuber who has a really fantastic and unique voice. She is, I believe, the only alien authortuber that we have here in our little authortube community. And she was actually the very first authortuber to welcome me to authortube. So I have a special feeling in my heart for Doll. So she just did this really honest video about how she feels about her knowledge of punctuation. I believe that Doll speaks English as a second language. And to make things even more exciting and challenging, Doll is blind. She is a blind writer. So when she is writing and editing her books, she is doing it by sound. She's listening to the text as she's writing. And I cannot even fathom how challenging that would be. I mean, she was really honest about how she felt about what she thought was really a big shortcoming for her, and that this would somehow be an obstacle so significant that she would not be able to find an agent or a publisher who would be willing to look past it. And what I want to say, not only to Doll, but also to any other writer who feels like that, is that writing is about communicating with a reader and about your unique voice and your unique ability to tell a story. And punctuation is something that can not only be easily fixed, but it can be easily fixed by a lot of people. One of the things that Doll was really concerned about was when to use quotation marks, double quotes versus single quotes. And she felt like she had gotten some bad information on that when it really was just a regional thing. In the US, it's standard to use double quotes surrounding a quote and single quotes for a quote within a quote, and the opposite is true in Australia and in the UK. Those things can be learned, and in many cases, they can be fixed by a computer program. But your unique voice is something that can't be learned. You know, that's what makes your writing unique and great, is the individual way that you can tell that story. So what I did do was tell her about my very favorite resource, which is Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. Many of you probably have this book in your large collection of writer books. I, in particular, love this book because it comes with punctuation stickers. So that's a great resource. But here's what I want to say to Doll in particular, and really to anybody who feels like something like punctuation is going to prevent them from reaching their dreams of becoming an author. And that is, it is far more important to have a unique voice and be a great storyteller than it is to follow the US standards rather than the UK standards for punctuation. It's easy to find people who can fix punctuation. It's harder to find people who are amazing, incredible storytellers. That's all there is to it. When I think about Doll, I think if I'm an agent, ding, 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 this is like a publicity gold mine. It's such a unique personal story. I think that as long as the writing is really good, that's not something that would hinder you from being published. One of the things I would tell you all as writers is how important it is to just be yourself and do the best that you can with all of the strengths and challenges that you have, because all those experiences are what makes you the person that you are and the writer that you are. And those little nuances are those little nuances are what gives you your own unique voice, and ultimately that will be the thing that sells the book for you, not the fact that you use UK punctuation instead of US punctuation. So there's that. Lie number 4, that you need to be a perfect speller or have perfect grammar in order to be an author. This is also not true. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from writers over the years who have been stopped by the fact that they really want to write a book and they feel like it's in them, but they are dyslexic or they're just not great spellers. Or they're bad with homonyms, which are, of course, two words that sound the same but have different spellings and different meanings. So one of my favorite writers and big thinkers in the entire universe is a woman named Lisa Earl McLeod. Lisa did not write her first book until she was almost 40 years old. And the reason for that is because she was in like elementary or middle school, and they had one of those deals where they ask all the kids to say what they want to be when they grow up. And Lisa said that she wanted to be a writer. And the teacher snapped right back and said, well, you'll never be a writer because you have terrible spelling. Well, Lisa does have a terrible spelling, but she is a best-selling author. And not only that, she is a really big thinker with an incredibly unique voice and an incredibly unique perspective on the world. She actually teaches businesses to find a noble purpose in what they do. Not just about making money, but actually in contributing to the world and contributing to humanity. Lisa didn't write her first book until she was almost 40 years old because of that comment from the teacher. Almost 40. And thank goodness she finally did, because she has an incredible voice. She's a fantastic storyteller. She's a person whose thoughts and ideas need to be out in the world. And I hate to think that she almost didn't write a book, her first book, because she's not a great speller. That would have been a terrible shame. And again, people can check spelling. There are computer programs that can check your spelling, but nobody can say what you need to say in the way that you can say it. The other part of that is grammar. And a lot of times people feel like if they don't have perfect grammar, that they'll never be an author. Certainly, it's very important to know the rules. And I guess of everything that you might want to do to improve your craft, and you should, as a writer, you should do your best to try to learn punctuation. You should do your best to try to learn spelling. You should do your best to try to learn grammar. And if you're struggling with that, this is my favorite grammar book. It's called Woe Is I. And I'll actually put links to these down in the comments below. It is really funny and simple. Now, do not get me wrong. You should definitely have someone look at your punctuation and spelling if those are challenging areas for you before you ever send off to an agent, or if you're publishing independently, before you hit that button on KDP. But this will not be the thing that prevents you from becoming an author. And I will tell you that all writers have grammar issues that they struggle with, or punctuation issues that they struggle with, or spelling issues where they have to look that word up every single time. I live with a writer, and we are constantly asking each other questions. And that is true of most authors that I know, that, this is something where you never stop learning and you never stop trying to get better at the craft of writing. All right, lie number 5. The odds are astronomical that you'll get published, and so you shouldn't even try. Now, many of us have heard that statistic about there's only a 1 in 100,000 chance that a book will get published. And I remember the first time I heard that, I thought, well, somebody's got to be that one, and it might as well be me. And that's what I want you to take from this, is that somebody has to be the one, and why couldn't it be you? It might as well be you, right? Somebody's got to be the one, it might as well be you. The great thing about that statistic, that 1 in 100,000 chance, and who knows where that came from, it's been floating around for years. The one thing that's awesome about that is it has this uncanny ability to clear the room. So the people who aren't really serious, who don't really want it as much as you want it, who aren't willing to get better and try and do what they can to improve their craft and to learn more about publishing and how the process works. The people who aren't going to watch an authortube video or 15 authortube videos on a Saturday night, those people aren't going to get published. It's the people like you, the people who stay, the people who put in the hard work. Those are the people who get published. And the odds go up a lot once you clear out all the people that aren't really serious about it anyway. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys are amazing. I don't know if you know this, but there are now 50 of us. I have 50 subscribers, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. So thank you so much for watching. You stay with me, and I am here for you. And remember, even if the odds are only 1 in 100,000, somebody's got to be the one, and it might as well be you, right? All right. So if you want to write a fantastic book that you are super proud of and get it published and you are ready to do the work, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Ding that little bell so you'll be notified every time I post a new writing video. And you and I, we're going to get this done. See you next time.